all so much for coming tonight, and thank you so much to our hosts, Lina and Matt, for your vibrance and for having us at your beautiful home. My name is Carolyne Newman. I'm a member of Shabtai, and I'm excited to be moderating tonight's conversation between Rabbi Shmully Hecht and Rabbi Ammiel Hirsch. Rabbi Hirsch currently serves as a senior rabbi of the Stephen Wise Free Synagogue in New York City and has been recognized as one of the most influential rabbis in the United States. He has served as the executive director of the Association of Reformed Zionists of America, advocating for pluralism and democracy in Israel. He is also the author of One People, Two Worlds, A Reform Rabbi and an Orthodox Rabbi Explore the Issues That Divide Them, a critically acclaimed dialogue about the modern challenges of Jewish life, and The Lilac Tree, a rabbinical reflection on love, courage, and Jewish history. Rabbi Shmully Hecht is the founder of Shabtai, where he fosters dialogue across diverse perspectives, blending spirituality, community, discourse, and dissent. Shabtai, sometimes also referred to as a Jewish Leadership Society, is a beating heart of free and open speech, and is one of, if not the only, rare places globally that can host Cory Booker and Ted Cruz, Vivek Ramaswamy and Vanessa Avery, Simha Rothman and Brett Stevens, for positive, open dialogue all under one roof. Before I begin, I would like to thank my two speakers for joining me tonight. Please give it up for Rabbi Shmully and Rabbi Hirsch. For my first question, I wanted to turn to the name of this talk, Those Jews. The name suggests division, us and them, Jews like me, and Jews that I am nothing alike. Shmully, as the figurehead of Yale's most diverse organization, can you please shed some light on why you're all here tonight?
Okay, I think I'm going to stand.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm vertically challenged, so sitting for me is going to be, among other things. Sorry, thank you. I always travel with my lawyer. Thanks, Igor. Okay. Louder. Okay. So, first of all, thank you. I want to thank God for giving us this wonderful opportunity.
Oh no, he's got his mic.
You're not going to hear me any louder. Yeah. Thank God we're all here tonight, and we should not take that for granted. There was a time things like this couldn't happen, even in this country. So I want to thank God for giving us the opportunity for being here. I want to thank, on behalf of Toby, my wife, my partner in everything I do, and on behalf of Shabtai, the organization that we serve, and the members, and the students, and the alumni that have gathered here tonight. Thank our hosts, of course, Ilana and Matt, Alina, and Matt, for opening up your home tonight, and for having us all here, and meeting your mom and your dad and your two wonderful children. Where's Matt? Oh, you're right here. Okay. I'm looking for you. And your beautiful children. It's just an honor to be here and to meet real Moscow Jews. That's something very powerful today. From the old school, who saw it all. And as your mom mentioned to me tonight, I can't believe it's happening in this country. It's something we should just think about. So thank you for having us. I want to thank Rabbi
Hirsch.
Rabbi, I got it. She wanted me to say Lina. I said Lina. Okay. All right, Rabbi.
What's the cultural difference? The Russians are not Jews. Withdrawn.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm a Galiciana. We go a little bit slower. So, Galiciana, yeah. And so I want to thank Rabbi Hirsch for being the first rabbi ever to agree to actually sit down and have a conversation with me. That's very brave. So I appreciate it. That's great. I've tried for a long time, but I'm not that popular. So it's wonderful to have accepted the invitation on behalf of the organization, and of course by your constituents and your community, and of course your staff and the people that work with you in the synagogue that are here tonight. So thank you. But most importantly, I want to thank everybody that came tonight. It's really wonderful to see you. I know so many of you, and I don't know some of you, and it's just an honor for us. I hope, just to see people come together on a weekday night, and some very accomplished people in the room. everybody is accomplished in the room. So it's wonderful. It's very heartfelt. It's wonderful to see just an apartment in the city, an intimate but packed apartment of people getting together to get together. I got it though, and to get together to do this tonight. And of course, to Carolyne Newman. Oh, they're shooting at us already. Those Jews.
The security at the section is very good.
Yeah. There's a company installing bulletproof windows now for Jews in the Upper West Side. So, and of course to Carolyne Newman, who Toby and I were fortunate enough to have met when when Carolyne was at Yale, and your parents are here tonight from Chicago. It's wonderful to see you again. And your sister from Chicago, Carolyne, for agreeing to try and moderate one crazy rabbi at least. We'll find out how crazy it's going to go. But it's really wonderful to see you so often in New York, and to see the alums that are here and the friends and all the other people that have come together. What was your question? What are we doing here? What are we doing here? I don't think I need to answer that question. I think we all know what we're doing here. We all know what we're doing here. So I'd say I'm going to skip that one and let everybody stop maybe for 10 seconds and ask themselves that question. That's a question for all of us. What are we doing here? I think it's the existential question, actually. What are we doing here? But what are we doing here? And if we're not doing much, we should start getting active.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If we've done a lot, we need to do more.
Yes.
And if we've done more, we need to do more, because it's not over. The battle isn't over. And it's survival at this point. So I think the existential question is something that we should be asking ourselves, each and every one of us, very deeply, and hopefully resolving to being able to answer that as individuals and communally and collectively.
Can I respond to him before you ask the question? First of all, you can stand.
Oh, I'm standing with you?
You are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of vertically challenged too. First of all,
The yeshiva basketball team.
it is. Listen, when I was a teenager, I actually thought I would be a professional basketball player because I was good, and then I stopped growing. And here I am, settled on the rabbinate. First of all, to Lina and Matt, thank you very much. It's good to see some long-lost congregants and new congregants, and I do have to say, this is quite an intimidating crowd, because based on the description that Rabbi Hecht gave me, my only hesitation was not dialoguing with you. It was like all these geniuses coming here is, it's quite intimidating. But I can just respond to you. I know you have a series of questions, but I was thinking when you were talking, they're basically three, they're more than three, but for me, there are three central conceptions that have either collapsed in the last year for us or have been seriously eroded. The first is our faith in Zionism itself, in that Zionism never promised to eliminate Jew hatred. And actually, it was their opponents, if you know a little bit about the history of Zionism, who were opposed to Zionism because they felt the solution to the Jewish problem was not in creating a Jewish state, but in full faith in the emancipation to solve the problem of anti-Semitism, because they believed that now, as we enter into the age of reason and the European Enlightenment, that since anti-Semitism is rooted fundamentally in unreason, it's irrational and unreasonable, that now that we have all the tools of science and evidence and reason, we can reason somebody out of their irrational, unreasonable position with respect to the Jews. But the Zionists, by the way, argued exactly the opposite. They agreed anti-Semitism was unreasonable, and they said, because it's unreasonable, you can never reason somebody out of something they didn't reason themselves into in the first place. And you know, Herzl, who witnessed the Dreyfus trial and was completely disillusioned, had bought into the idea of the emancipation resolving the Jewish problem, was so dramatically disappointed. And if you read his writings, you can see the personal trauma that he underwent. And so they said something very optimistic and very pessimistic at one and the same time. And this was essentially Herzl's idea that was carried on afterwards, where he said, the only solution to the Jewish problem after we tried everything else was to get out of the way. Okay? Because we tried everything. We tried conversion, and we tried assimilating, and we tried this and that and the other. Nothing worked. And we accepted the argument of the emancipation that this new era of civil rights and social justice, and Herzl is sitting in Paris, which is the very capital of egalitarianism, equality, and liberty, or fraternity, right? He becomes disillusioned, and he says, this is not going to work. So Zionism is really rooted in a pessimistic perspective of the condition of the Jews. There's nothing else that we can do, even in the most advanced society in the history of the human race. And therefore, we need to get out of the way. And for Herzl, initially, he didn't even care where it was. He just wanted to get out of the way. At the same time, he said, in 50 years, we can do this, which was such an optimistic perspective on the Jewish condition for lots of reasons that we can't get into now. People thought he was a madman, and they sincerely thought that this person needed to be institutionalized. So the Zionists, they never promised that Zionism would be the solution to anti-Semitism, but they did promise security for individual Jews and the Jewish people. They did promise that from now on, Jews would defend themselves by themselves, and the kind of pogroms that Jews escaped from in Europe would not happen in the Jewish state. And we can go into this in more detail, but that conception collapsed on October 7th. First, the state was nowhere to be seen for the entire day. And secondly, all of the catastrophes and the massacres and the hostages, they, if not shattered, they shook faith in the capacity of Zionism to secure Jewish life. And up until that point, you know, Israelis were very happy to retreat behind all this technology. Consider, you know, we're part of Western Europe. We don't really want it. We're living in the Middle East, but psychologically we're in the West, and we're creating all kinds of agreements with so-called moderate states in the Persian Gulf and so on. That's number one. And our faith in Zionism was shaken because for us too, American Jews, we thought and assumed that Israel was secure enough that, you know, it could mess around with judicial reform for 10 months, and we could spend a lot of our time criticizing Israel and not thinking about security. That's conception number one. Conception number two that collapsed was we thought, like, not completely like our predecessors in Europe in the 19th and early 20th century, but we too thought that we had reached a phase in Jewish history in the United States of post-anti-Semitism. Okay? It wasn't as if we didn't know about the existence of anti-Semitism, and we didn't forget the Pittsburgh massacre and Charlottesville, but we related to anti-Semitism kind of like the way we relate to our own mortality. You know, we know it's there, but we convince ourselves that it's never going to affect us, you know, on a daily basis. And what we see here now in the United States is an explosion of anti-Semitism, but not only physical attacks that are obvious, right? For most reasonable, normal people, they know that Charlottesville with tiki torches or Pittsburgh is beyond the pale. But we're also seeing that a lot. And we know this firsthand. We know how much money we're spending now on security versus 5 years ago, for example. You can't get into our synagogue without going through a magnetometer and so on and so forth. But intellectual anti-Semitism too, not only in the nexus between anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism. There is a direct intellectual assault, and maybe you guys know this more than me, on the foundations of Judaism itself. And the third conception that I think collapsed or was shaken, and I say this as a liberal, who basically, since I first began studying liberalism in university, I became a committed liberal in every way. I'm a Reform rabbi. Our synagogue is on the Upper West Side. So I say this as a liberal, and that our faith in liberalism and in Western values has been shaken in the last years as well. The capacity of our belief and our faith in the West's ability to distinguish between right and wrong, terror and self-defense, good and evil, has been shaken. And for those of us in the liberal camp, it has especially shaken us because the people and institutions and organizations with whom we partnered for decades, going all the way back to the civil rights movement, disappointed us, almost all of them, and I can give you detail after detail in a discussion if you're interested and we have time. But almost all of them either disappointed us or even betrayed us. And when we look at what's happening on campuses and at universities and schools, high schools, which I can share with you my own experience here in the city, and even middle schools, even elementary schools, by the way, when we observe what's happening there, and we see the drift from liberal values, the kind at least that I was raised on and that I firmly believe, to leftwards, to something else, call it progressive, call it identity politics, whatever we call it, that drift that has dragged some of our Jews with them, okay, has departed from classic liberal values, from the kind of liberal values that people in my generation were raised on and had completely bought into as part of the American experience. And that it's happening, the higher the reputation of the educational institution, the more it's happening. And we see this in New York City in the private schools as well, right? The higher the reputation, the more elite the educational institution, the more it seems that institution is swept up in a departure from liberalism into some other left ideology that in many respects, and I say this as a liberal, is offensive to liberalism and is not liberal, is illiberal. And that's always bad for Jews. That is always bad for Jews. Because once we depart from the liberal value of judging people not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character, or by what group they're associated with, or some innate characteristic over which they had no control. Right? Once we depart from judging people by the content of their character, Jews are always going to find ourselves on the wrong side of virtue. And so for us, it seems to me, what has been revealed over the last year is that we have a tremendous amount of work to do. And it's real work. It's fighting back, okay, on these three concepts. We need to restore faith in Zionism. We need to protect and defend ourselves in every way with this explosion of anti-Semitism, including intellectually, including the nexus between anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism. We have to explain why that while on a theoretical basis and a philosophical basis we might have interesting discussions, does anti-Zionism by definition constitute anti-Semitism? But we have to realize in more cases than not, it descends into anti-Semitism. We have to wage intellectual war on that, or at least on the intellectual struggle. And we have to restore what liberalism really means and has meant in the United States. And I believe we're only at the very, very beginning of this process. And one final word. We're still in the traumatic phase of October 7th and the aftermath. We haven't even begun to recover yet. Because, in trauma, post-trauma is, almost by definition, I think, I'm not in mental health, but it means once you've gone to a different phase beyond the trauma and you can begin to recover. The Jewish people is still in immense trauma until the war is won and Israel prevails. And the war now is it's not even on two fronts, it's on multiple fronts. Until Israeli refugees are returned home in the north and the south. And of course, until the hostages are returned dead or alive. We're still in the midst of trauma. So we're at the very beginning of a very long process. And I'm very happy that you asked me to come. And of course, I dialogue with anybody who's willing to dialogue with me, especially
Crazy rabbi like me.
Especially non-Reform Orthodox rabbis. One of the books out there is with a Haredi rabbi that I dialogued with.
I read it.
So because I feel another lesson of October 7th needs to be, there's ample room, and it's a positive thing for Jews to debate with each other and argue with each other. That's part and parcel of our tradition from the very beginning. Okay, a Jew who doesn't want to debate and doesn't argue, there's something not really authentic about that. But, and all of that is good. And we need to continue to do that. That's what our tradition is. But we also need to try and find the biggest possible common ground in the Jewish community now, because we have an emergency and we have to prioritize what we need to attend to first. And I believe that from my perspective, we need to unite around the common tasks ahead, which are going to be long-lasting and very significant, and try and leave as much as we can to the side all these, kind of petty disputes that prevent us from coming together in a group like this.
Thank you very much.
Kelly, you gotta speak up. Maybe you should stand and ask the question.
So, in the context of uniting the Jews, and in the context of a regression away from Western values and the idea of Zionism as a whole, I want to address a petition you, Rabbi Hirsch, received in December demanding your support of an immediate ceasefire. In reflecting on the content of the petition, you say there was not a word of sympathy for the Israelis nor a word of compassion for our own. So, in the context of what I studied at Yale, which was cognitive science, one of the core truths of human psychology is in-group bias, and that is described as a tendency to favor one's own group and its members and characteristics in general. So, given this petition, how do you explain the psychological anomaly of contempt for your own in-group rather than bias in favor of it?
Yeah, because listen, this psychology is beyond my pay grade. So I'll have to ask you, to give your perspective on it. I can tell you this.
Mendel, can you hear us in the back? Yeah. Okay.
first of all, that petition, it was in December of 23, right? It was in December of 23, so that was a mere October, November, 2.5 months or so. And the fighting was still raging. People were in shock. And of course, and Israel was contending with all these forces that were, one, characterizing what was happening as genocide, and two, insisting on a ceasefire. And so in that context, we had 1,200 or so, mostly young people who were alumni of the Reform movement, either synagogues or Reform camps or similar institutions, who wrote a letter, not to me, who wrote a petition to the movement itself, and accused us of betraying our own values that we ostensibly taught them when they were young. Values of Tikkun Olam, you've mostly heard that concept, which is a concept that's rooted in Jewish concern for all humanity and reminds us of our task to work towards repair of society at large. And, in very, very vicious language, really, accused Israel of the most heinous crimes and accused us, the Reformed Jewish leadership, of abandoning our values. And what was noticeable was, even beyond the actual petition, you can find this online if you want to take a look at it, was they published the reasons why there's several hundred people answered why they decided to sign this petition. And that was what was especially noteworthy to me, because over and over and over again, presumably young people, many of the ages that are here and younger, and Gen X, which I guess Gen Z, which I guess goes to 27, and then into the 30s. They used language of the progressive left as if they themselves were not part of the Jewish people. So Judaism starts with all of our concern for the world. The very first words to the first Jew. Okay, Lech lecha mi'artzecha mi'moladetcha u'mi'beit avicha, to Abraham, leave your father's home, your homeland, and go to a land that I will show you, and I will make of you a great nation. That's the beginning point of Judaism, peoplehood, what we call today peoplehood. And nivrechu v'cha kol mishpachot ha'adama. All the nations of the earth will bless themselves through you. So right there in Judaism, at the very beginning, we have this merger between what we call today, loosely, universalism and particularism. Concern for the world at large, which is kind of encapsulated, especially in our movement, by the phrase Tikkun Olam, and what's called the basic Jewish value of Ahavat Yisrael, love for the Jewish people. And both need to exist simultaneously. That's part of the genius of Judaism, and that's part of our contribution to the world. Jewish universalism, ripped from the moorings of Jewish particularism, Ahavat Yisrael, love for the Jewish people, is not Jewish universalism. It's just universalism. It's Kantian. Okay? And Jewish particularism that only cares about Jews or my Jews or people in my neighborhood or people who think like me, divorced from our mandate and responsibility to repair the world at large, is also truncated Judaism. It's something different. It's something less. And we need to try and keep the two in balance at all times. And when we lose the balance, okay, which is what I detected here, just simply on the language. We're going back to the age of the anti-Zionists of the 19th and 20th century, who felt that the age of Jews caring about fellow Jews, Jewish particularism, Jewish peoplehood, that was not only a relic of the past, but it was actually an impediment to the manifestation of universal values. And I suspect that that's what's happening here. So when it comes to our own movement, I took that very seriously because we can't lose the Reform movement. We can't lose the liberal Jews in this country. 90% of American Jews define themselves as something other than Orthodox. Okay, so I believe in live and let live, and I believe in dialogue, and I believe in learning from each other, and all of that. But most Jews have not, are not, and will not be Orthodox. So we can't afford to lose the liberal movements. As the liberal movements go, so goes much of American Jewry. And from that perspective, I feel a particular obligation internally. First of all, to do chashbon nefesh, to do a kind of a soul searching, and to stop this drift that leads us out of emphasizing Jewish particularism, Jewish peoplehood, and its most eloquent modern-day expression, Zionism and the State of Israel, because that would devastate not only our movement, but American Jewry itself.
I'm going to attempt to answer that question, even though it wasn't addressed to me. But before I do that, I want to tell you a story about two rabbis who were challenged to convert the beer. You know the story about that?
No.
Yeah. So there was a beer who they were considering putting through the conversion process, and they came back to the people that were running this competition, and the Reform rabbi came into the office first, and they said, "How'd it go?" And so the Reform rabbi says, I sat down and I talked about Abraham and Adam and Genesis and the Bible and the prophets and liberalism and Zionism and all these things, and he didn't buy it. The beer was not converting. So there was the Orthodox rabbi. They called the Orthodox rabbi in from the lobby. The Orthodox rabbi comes in to the room. He has one hand. He's got one leg. He's bleeding. His eyes out. He's hunched over. He looks like he's dying. And they turn to the rabbi and they say, "What happened?" He said, "I probably shouldn't have started with circumcision." So, I'm a very proud Orthodox rabbi, and if I leave here tonight with one leg and one hand, that's okay. Toby will drop. Toby, you might have to drive home tonight. But I think the notion that we are going to raise a generation of American Jews, and I'll speak about Jews first, by teaching them the virtues of Zionism, modern Zionism, whether it's late 19th century or 20th century Zionism, or teaching them the values of liberalism, it's over. Those days are over.
Right.
That's my opinion. So I'm going to tell you what I think. My opinion is, and most of what I say, I actually believe Rabbi Hirsch agrees with, and I can only say that, although tonight's the first time I'm meeting you, because I read your book, one of the two books that's on the table, and as I emailed you, I think it's a book that will go down for those that read it in a centuries of books like the great disputes that happened in the Middle Ages and the great debates that have happened through Jewish history. You should read the book.
Which one?
The book is the conversation between Rabbi Hirsch and an Orthodox rabbi from Lakewood. Is he still in Lakewood?
Yeah.
And it's just a fantastic conversation that he has. So I think I'm going to say a few things that may sound a little bit alarming and perhaps controversial, but I think you agree, and you can obviously interrupt me or try to interrupt me when you disagree with me. But I'll let you come back. So Zionism and liberalism are wonderful things, and a lot of Jews want to be liberals, and a lot of Jews believe in Zionism. Most Jews believe in Zionism, and according to your statistics, most Jews are liberals. According to the statistics on the political front, 75% of Jews vote for Democrats, right? Only 25% vote for Republicans. However, if there's one thing we learned from October 7th and the aftermath of October 7th is that we need to go back. We need to go back not decades, and not centuries, but we need to go back millennia to the verses you're quoting of Avram Avinu and the covenant that God made with Avram Avinu. And we need to actually start educating ourselves and our children about what it means to be Jewish. We need to learn Hebrew. We need to study Aramaic, languages that our people wrote the Talmud in. We need to read the prophets in our original languages, the original languages in which they were written. I'm sorry.
No.
We're not that close yet. The time the night's over. That smelled like vodka. Are you sure?
I didn't want him to get sick before the holidays, nor do I want to get sick. I have a big weekend.
Okay. We need to go back. We need to go back to the original texts, traditions of Yiddishkeit. Everybody in this room that's Jewish has a grandparent that talks about Yiddishkeit, about Judaism, about what it meant to go to shul, and to daven, and to open up a daf yomi, and to learn an Ein Yaakov. Your father's telling me tonight about Cheskel Landau. How many people in this room know who Cheskel Landau is? One of the great giants of Talmudic scholarship. And he's telling me that your mother, I believe, your father's still there?
Yeah.
I just met him tonight in the kitchen. My wife is a descendant of Yecheskel Landau. Now, Yecheskel Landau, it sounds like Chinese, right? We know about Herzl, we know about liberals, we know about Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, and we know everything, and we know nothing. So I want to address the question. One other thing I should mention, which is if you ever go into a room and there's a rabbi there and he comes in and they ask him to speak, and he tells you he didn't really prepare anything, he's lying. First of all, rabbis always go to events with two speeches. They go with the speech they're going to say if they're asked to speak. And then they go with another speech because if somebody else who speaks before them takes their speech, they're going to have a backup speech. All right, so full disclosure, Carolyne emailed us what she was going to talk about tonight. In fact, she gave us some headlines, thank you, on what the questions were going to be. So I printed something out. And I'm going to read it. I'm going to read it quickly in Hebrew, because that's the language it was originally written in. A blend of Aramaic and Hebrew, and then I'm going to translate it. And I think that there's no place in Jewish history after Avram Avinu getting the covenant. First God says, Avram, you're a chosen people. And we don't apologize. You went to Harvard, right? You don't apologize, right? You went to Yale? You don't apologize. Where are you? Wait, partner Wachtell, Lipton? Wachtell and Harvard? Yeah. Double apology. Wachtell, Lipton, Davis, Paul. No one's going to apologize tonight. So we're Jews. We're the chosen people. And that's that's the gift God gave us. And we can argue about how we define what that means. And what it means to be a chosen people among other nations that God wants us to love and care for and to share with. This existential question is the question that you talked about. The universal versus the particular, the Zionist, the 19th century Europe, right? Herzl's dilemma, can we assimilate, but we're German. You thought you were German, you weren't German. Look what the Germans did to the Jews. They put 6 million of us in pits and ovens. So for hundreds of years you lived and you were delusional to think that you were German. I'm a 6th generation American, but I'm a Jew first.
Right.
I'm a Jew first. I think everybody in this room who's Jewish knows. If you don't know it by now, after October 7th, you're naive. You're Jewish. If you don't believe that you're Jewish first, your next door neighbor's going to remind you, don't worry. When you get on the bus, in front of your face or behind your face, they're going to remind you. They're reminding our kids on campus today. People ask me how things are doing at Yale, how things are doing on the ground. They're fantastic. You can't hide today. You can't hide if you're a Jew today. Because you're being reminded when you walk out of your dorm room or in your dorm room that you're different. And now you got to figure out what that means. You got to figure out what that means. So what does it mean to be part of a people that are distinct? No different than Americans are distinct. And no different than the West is distinct. Or Islam is distinct. Or Christianity is distinct. Or Harvard is distinct. What does it mean? So the Mishnah says as follows: Ketzad ma'ayim se'edim al din nefasha se'machnisanes ma'ayim aleim shamar tem of the umad and mishma eid mipied or mipinaman sheshamanu ashama sham yatim yedish suspend live the guest of dishbachakira. The Talmud in Sanhedrin, it's a Mishnah in Tractate Sanhedrin. Sanhedrin deals with the laws of jurisprudence of the courts, and the Mishnah says as follows. Take about a few minutes, but if you remember this, I think you're going to remember something that's very important. It's going to give us some ammunition to go out there. When witnesses come into a court on a capital punishment case, the judges have a responsibility to warn them of the consequences of their testimony. And how did they do that? They would bring them in and they would scare them. They would say to them, is your testimony maybe something you're assessing? Maybe you're imagining? Maybe you heard about it? Maybe you even heard about it from another witness who testified about this murder in another court case? Maybe you heard about this from a person who testified about it that was a reputable court. Maybe you heard about a prior conviction, right? Big controversy today. These sex scandals. How many cases, prior cases, can you bring in? It's being overturned in the courts, etc. Don't you know that for capital punishment, we're going to ask you tough questions? And you should know that capital punishment, that here we're dealing with in a court of capital punishment, the consequences of which means the death penalty for the defendant, is not the same as a monetary case. Why? If you lie and you say that the guy stole the money and he didn't steal it, we found out that you lied, all you need to do is pay the guy the money that you made him pay. But if you lie in a case of capital punishment in a Jewish court in the times of the temple, you should know that you should know that if this person goes to the gallows because of your testimony, his blood and the blood of his descendants are going to be on your shoulders ad seif ha'olam until the end of the generations. And the commentaries explain why. When you pay a monetary, if you lie in a court about a monetary issue, about a financial issue, about a fiscal issue, anything to do with money, and you have to pay back, we don't say, but what about the cost of funds? You know, in the marketplace, we talk about cost of funds. I get 4% of the bank, I made the investment, give me my cost of funds first then, give me my return, etc. We don't do that. So in a monetary case, we don't deal with cost of funds. We don't think about what could the money have done if it would have been spent elsewhere. Okay? But if you put somebody up to the gallows and you lied about that they didn't actually, you lied about them in court, you should know that for generations, all the children that they could have given birth to, that didn't come into the world because you killed this man or you killed this woman in a court, all the lives that were taken away, but the lives that were prevented from being born are on your shoulders. How do we know this, says the Mishnah? Cain killed his brother. And what does the Shenemar, as it says in the Pasuk Bereshis, in Genesis 4? And what does God say to Cain after he killed his brother? So we're talking about war. We're talking about war in the Middle East, right? And we're talking about one nation killing another. And then we're talking about how do we deal with it, and Palestinian lives, and Jewish lives. So let's listen to this Mishnah. And what does Hashem say to Cain? He says, the bloods, plural, of your brother are crying out. It doesn't say the blood of Cain. He says to Cain, why'd you kill Hevel? The Torah should have said the blood of Hevel is calling out. Why does it say the bloods of Hevel are calling out? Who are the bloods of Hevel? Hevel is one person. He was killed by his brother. What's this plural? Torah is very particular about the way it says things. So the Gemara says, the Mishnah says, you should know that the reason is because his blood, you took his blood, and you took the blood of all the people that Hevel would have had as posterity for generations to go, and you're responsible for his death in an illegal, unjust case. There's another commentary as you talk about the argument. The other part of the Mishnah says, the other opinion in the Mishnah says that it says plural blood, because when Cain killed Hevel, he didn't know how to kill. Nobody had killed anybody before Cain killed Hevel. So how do you take a life? He wasn't sure which part of the body was going to take his brother's life. So he stabbed him all over the place. So it says, the bloods, because the blood was scattered all over the place. Okay. Then the Mishnah says something else. Now I'm going to bore you. I'm going to read you a Mishnah, and you're going to sit and you're going to sweat, and I'm going to sweat, and you're going to say, where did the night go? And hopefully Caroline's going to get to her questions. But if you don't know this Mishnah, you're not going to be able to answer the existential question you started the night off. So I'm going to keep going. And forgive me if it's the last time you come to a Shabtai. That's fine. There's another 100 people in the lobby waiting downstairs. Lefichach nivra Adam Yechidi, says the Mishnah. That's why when God created Adam and Eve, He created one Adam and one Eve. Lelamdecha, to teach us. And now here's the key. Lelamdecha, why did He make one man and one woman? Not only did God make one man and one woman, but He made the woman from the man. So He made one human, and all of humanity comes, because Chava was created from Adam. So that's what the Torah says. So why did He create one man from which Chava was created? Lelamdecha, to teach you. Shekol ha'amid nefesh achas miYisrael. To teach you that if you take the life of one what? Of one Jew. Who said Jew? Who said Jew? So you say it's Jew. You take the life, you say that because I read Yisrael. You take the life of one Jew. Let's table that for a second. The Mishnah says here that if you take the life of one Jew, you should know that you took the whole generation. You destroyed the whole world. Because Adam is one person, and he was the whole world. So one person represents all humanity. So if you take the life of one person, one Jew, the Mishnah says, table that word's a key word. When we talk about universal and human rights, I call it humanitarian rights, but let's talk about humanitarian. If you take one knife, you save the whole generation, the whole world. And if you kill one person, and if you save one person, you've saved an entire world. That's the first reason why God made Adam and Chava on their own. This is what they're telling the witnesses in a case, on a capital punishment case. The second reason why God created the human species, one man from which Chava comes, and then the entire race. Mipnei Shalom Habriyas. Caroline, because we have to live among the nations, and we want to live Shalom Habriyas, to live peacefully with all the other people in the world. We want to be liberals. The Tanaim wanted to be liberals. They were living in Babylonia. We lived in Jerusalem, we lived in Israel, we lived in the Middle East, we lived everywhere in the world. Can't get rid of Jews, we're everywhere. Mipnei Shalom Habriyas. The second reason why God made Adam and Chava was Mipnei Shalom Habriyas, so that we can live with the other nations of the world peacefully. I don't have the right to walk into a Catholic church, or to a mosque, or to a college campus, and tell another person, my father is greater than your father. Guess what, buddy? We got the same father. His name is Adam. Simple. Simple. We all came from the same place. That's the second reason. Third reason, so that the Apikurim, the Minin, the heretics, shouldn't be able to say that there were many gods. If there would have been many Adams and many Eves created, they would have said each God made one man and one woman. No, God made one species, one human race, in the image of God, one God. And then, look how beautiful this mission is. To teach us the greatness of God. When a person makes a mold, and you make a mold in a factory, for a watch, for a phone, for a suit, you make a mold, and everything that comes out of that mold looks exactly the same. God made the mold of the human, and no two of us look alike. No two of us think alike. No two of us behave alike. So this is the genius why God made one, to show you the greatness of God's creation, that from one, the pluribus unum, right? From one came so many. And the Mishnah says, therefore, when a person wakes up in the morning, you need to say every day, every one of us, Bishvili nivra ha'ilam, the whole world was created for me. God made the entire universe for one person. Now, if I get up in the morning and I say that, and the guy on the bus, I know, is supposed to say it too, and we're both saying the truth, what kind of world are we living in? That God made the world for each and every one of us. And this is the end of the Mishnah. After the witnesses hear this, what's the first thing they're going to do? I'm sorry, Colin, I'm almost there. They're going to turn to themselves and say, do we want to testify? I mean, what, this rabbi just gave me a whole story about one person and the whole universe, and I'm going to destroy for generations. Yeah, talk about stress and trauma. Guy's going to have a nervous breakdown, go to 3 psychiatrists. I have no reason to testify in a court. Let me walk out of the courtroom. So the Mishnah says you can't. You have to testify. We Jews are going to testify. Because the Torah says, it says that you don't have a choice. The Bible says that if you're a Jew, you have, and you know something, you have to be vocal. You have to go out for civil rights. You have to go out for human rights. You have to go out for women's rights. If you know something, you have to be the one who walks into the world court, the court of the world's opinion, and you have to say that I'm going to fight for every single person. But what if he is guilty, and my toast testimony puts him on the gallows, and he dies? And here's the clincher. You should know that it says in Mishlei, it says in Proverbs, Uba'aved Rishayim Rina, and this is the end of the Mishnah. Uba'aved Rishayim Rina means that with the destruction of evil there is joy. With the destruction of evil there is joy. If he's guilty, you know what? He belongs on the gallows. So I want to answer, give me just 2 minutes to finish this thought. In this text of the Mishnah, we've learned everything about the value of human life. In this particular Mishnah, it says that a person has to say that God created Adam alone, because one who saves every Jew, any one Jew, is as if he saved an entire world. There are other versions of the same Mishnah quoted by Rashi in another place in the Talmud where it doesn't say the word saving a Jew. It says saving a human. I want you to know that. And the Rambam, Maimonides, 700 years after the Talmud, when he writes the law, he says it relates to every single person. That it's not written, that the text doesn't read Yisrael, but if you save a life, you've saved the generation. If you take a life, you've taken a generation. When I read the Mishnah, I have my personal reading, which I want to share with you tonight. We've done such a good job at saving the whole world. We're liberals, we're humanitarians, we're for 200 years we've lived wonderfully in this country. We're there for every single cause. The Mishnah is teaching us that if you don't understand the value of the Jew, which is your own, you can't save the whole world. If the life of your 4-year-old in that bedroom is not the most precious thing to you in the world, you're not a good mom. If the life of your spouse, who you love, is not more important to you, you're not a good spouse. If we have a saying, Yale for God, for country, for Yale. What's for God, for country, for Yale? Just say for God, for country. And who the hell says for God, for country? Yale's an international university. What kind of country? Just say for God. But Yale never took that off. It never took it down. For God, for country, for Yale. Because if I believe in God, I believe in my country, and I believe in Yale. And you know what? If we do a good job with our God, and we do a good job in this country, and we do a good job at Yale, the whole world's going to be taken care of. Because what are we supposed to be teaching our students? We're supposed to be teaching our students how to save the whole world. But take care of your own first. So the Mishnah is telling us, Caroline, in groups, out groups, why are they paralyzed? Why are Reformed kids who grew up in some Reformed temple walking out to college campuses and fighting for Palestinians? Because that's what they were taught, to fight for everybody. They were never taught what it means to self-preserve who you are. Because who are we? What does it mean to be Jewish? So we need to go back, I think, to the fundamental principles of what does it mean to be Jewish, and from there expound outwards, and then we're going to be stronger. And the stronger, and the more proudly, and the more assertive, and the more vocal we are about being Jews, proud Jews, practicing Jews, packing the synagogues. I don't care about Reform, Conservative, Orthodox. I'm a Lubavitcher, so those things are meaningless to me. I'm a Lubavitcher who grew up in Forest Hills, Queens, which was headquartered of the Nazi Party in the 1940s. My dad's a rabbi in a Sephardic synagogue. I went to a Hasidic school with Satmar teachers and modern Orthodox kids. I mean, so for me, I got on a bus on the B41 in Brooklyn every day. I was the only white kid on the bus. So labels are meaningless to me. And I know that you're the same because I read your book and you're here tonight. So we, the collective we, need to remember. It's okay for the Mishnah to talk about when they're dealing with a capital punishment case for a Jew who's on trial for capital punishment, to tell the witnesses that you taking this one Jew's life or not his life is a generational thing for generations. And that's the way we set our courts up. And then we can go into the international court and value, which is what the Mishnah continues to teach us, which is that when you say to your friend down the block who's not like you, that I'm better than you, you should remember you're different than him, or you're different than she, but we all go back to the same place. So, I'm sorry for holding it up, but you can.
Shmully, I'm really glad you shared that story because I think it's really helpful in contextualizing a lot of, internal moral confusion that Jews have as we watch people who we feel like we know perish in this war. And I want to address, the Rabbi Hirsch's perspective that it seems like Jews in general are tending towards reform and liberalism, but Shmully's insistence that we must be more conservative in order to survive. So I'm going to ask a question next that challenges both, which is, a Harvard-Harris poll from December shows that 67% of 18 to 24-year-olds believe Jews as a class are oppressors. So how can young Jews maintain pride in their Jewish identity when they are surrounded by oppressor class rhetoric? And what is the path forward for the American Jewish identity, given the type of rhetoric that we are surrounded by?
Do you want?
You're up.
Whatever you're comfortable with. So I just want to reaffirm what Rabbi Hecht said, which I fundamentally agree with in terms of principles. And in answer to the specific question, we're not prepared to give up on our interaction with all kinds of people who are part of society and have overlapping goals for society as we do. So when it's, by the way, it's not only people who came out of reform institutions who are participating in liberation seders and liberated zones, and it's lots of people, including, by the way, some people who came out of Orthodox institutions. I've seen them and I've met with them also. But I do think, and I agree, that there are two elements here of what we thought we were doing and what actually transpires when we see, if not the final result, then the result down the road. Well, number one, everything Jewish starts with the covenant of the Jewish people. We are a people that also has a faith, but we're a civilization, in the words of Mordechai Kaplan. If we lose that grounding, that anchoring, then we speak about universal concerns, which you believe in too, and you spoke about. But if we lose that grounding, then we end up with a result that we didn't intend. Okay, so when we, this is just personally and a lot of my colleagues, when we deal with hundreds of our kids, we want them to be sensitive to social justice. We want them to be, in a sense, warriors against discrimination, against racism, of all types. We want them to care about poverty, and so on and so on and so forth. Okay. What we did not intend is for them to be anti-Zionists. We wanted them to be Zionists. We wanted them to care about their fellow Jews. And I completely agree, and again, I'm not in mental health, and I'm assuming there are people here who have studied this and know much more about it, but I completely agree that it is not chauvinism to feel, with all of our concern about repair of the world, it's not chauvinistic to have more intense feelings for your own family than for somebody else's family. In fact, I want to suggest, again, I didn't study this, if you don't care more for your own kid than your neighbor's kid, then there's probably something damaged about you. You're emotionally damaged. It doesn't mean that you don't care about your neighbor's kid. Nor does it mean you have no responsibility for your neighbor's kid. You do. But you feel the more intense emotions for your own. That is how the human being is constructed. And for those who don't feel that, there's something off about them. Now, from a Jewish perspective, it's exactly that. It's love of family, of your own family, that trains you, conditions you, and teaches you how to love other people's families, right? Which is what you said. So that's number one. Again, this is why I say I'm detecting a lot of trends that they believed in the 19th century and 20th century, okay, where we can kind of surpass all of that. No, we haven't become different creatures. By the way, we've advanced tremendously technologically since ancient times, but fundamentally we're the same. We have the same emotional makeup, which is why when we read ancient texts, our own and ancient myths, we can so identify with the heroes because we see ourselves in them. That's number one. And that, if I were to look back and say, look at the result of some people who claim in the name of values that we taught them, that's why they're marching with BDS and they're turning their backs on not only on Israel, but on the Jewish establishment, which is a target of substantial criticism that they have. It might, if I look back and I say, well, what did we do wrong? Kafka wrote about his father that while he thought he was transmitting Judaism, it was all dribbling away. Okay, so we can't, while we think we're transmitting fundamental Jewish values about concern of the world, we can't let it all dribble away about the fundamental construct of Judaism. That's number one. Number two, to the extent that you referred to this as well, I also agree. We spoke about this on the street this morning. Okay, so you all, or most of you, I'm prepared to say all of you, were accepted by among the most selective and elite institutions of higher learning. In order to be accepted in those institutions, you had to work hard before. And you had to excel before. In other words, you had to take this learning seriously. So we have the offspring of among the most accomplished Americans and accomplished human beings, the most educated human beings in the entire history of the human race. From a Jewish perspective, there has never been a diaspora Jewish community in the whole history of Judaism as educated, as affluent, as if influential, as what's considered successful, as the American Jewish community of the late 20th and early 21st century. And the reason for that is self-evident to us, especially to you. We work hard, we believe in education, we believe in knowledge, we believe in reason, we believe in evidence, we believe in science, and so on and so on and so on. And we work hard. And we strive to accomplish. We believe in books, okay? Learning. Because we know that if you want to know math, you actually have to study math. Right? I mean, we have parents here. Right? You send your kids to school, and if they come back and you say, well, I don't want to take math, you tell them, okay, don't take math. Study something else. Study home economics. Right? It's like, that would be preposterous for us. We understand that self-evidently. If you want to know what's in a book, we understand. You have to read books. If you want to be proficient in music, you have to practice and study with the best teachers, right? If you want to excel in athletics, you have to train. So we have the children of the most successful Jews in the history of the Jewish people in terms of our embrace of in the broader culture and the value they place on us. And for some reason, these highly intelligent American Jews, who themselves understand the urgency of study, they think they can transmit Jewish identity without studying Judaism. Right? So, like, how does that work? Like, if you want to know what Judaism is, somebody has to teach you Judaism. And you can't, it's like, somebody has to make the priorities. Like you say, no, you're going to study math even if you don't like it, because math is important to you, at least basic math. I can't do that stuff anymore, but I used to, and I needed to, right? And you want to know what's in, you want to know what the history of civilization is like. You have to study history. The same for Judaism. If you want to raise children with a strong Jewish identity, you need to prioritize Judaism. And so many of our families, because maybe it there's some kind of connection between the standard that they've reached in American society, the level that they've reached in American society, that in some way influences them to emphasize with their kids math and science and history and so on, and not Judaism. Even though I know, at least from the perspective of the people I see in our congregation, those are the people who affiliate, right? All the people who don't care about Judaism already, none of us see them. Okay, and I can guarantee you that, and we know this from empirical evidence, that the vast majority of their children by the third generation won't be Jewish in their families. It just that, and you know this because, like, you're the most intelligent people in the country, so you know this, right? And you want your kids to be Jewish. I'm not talking about you personally, but you know, our people. And still, they prioritize other things, and it's not going to work. And subcontracting Jewish identity from the family to a synagogue for an hour or two a week, interspersed with soccer practice, and so I'm not coming this week, and on and on and on, okay, is also not going to work. So I believe that, you know, that, and that's why, in the end, our children who come to Yale and come to the elite campuses and face people who know their story well, Palestinian advocates, and some of them have come out of the Palestinian experience, and others have studied it in depth. Our kids are like deer caught in a headlight because they don't even know their own story, because they didn't study it. They don't know it. And you thought you were, and you wanted to create a Jewish identity, not you personally, in our children. But they didn't put the work in. Okay? If you want to be Jewish, not only that, by the way, if you want to know Judaism, you have to study Judaism. You have to study it in books and teaching and on and on and on. If you want to be Jewish, live a Jewish lifestyle, then you actually have to live Judaism too. And you have to have a discipline that starts in the home and extends to the Jewish community. Okay, and that's if you were to ask me, one of the questions that you have there is, what's our biggest challenge? That's the final question, I know. So I'm going to just jump to the final question. That's our biggest challenge. Not October 7th, not Israel, which is going to survive and prosper. This war is going to end. Our biggest challenge here in the United States is what we loosely call Jewish continuity, okay? But it is the ability to transmit Judaism from generation to generation, which is how Judaism was transmitted and why you're Jewish. And there's my last comment on this issue. We have almost an unprecedented, I think we have an unprecedented situation in the vast majority of that part of American Jewry that is not Orthodox. Jewish tradition assumed. You remember the Passover Agada? You know what? Remember yeah. with the kid who doesn't know how to ask? Right. So you remember what you're supposed to do with him? Teach him. Teach him. But what happens if the parents don't know enough Judaism to teach their kids? Right. Jewish tradition never took that situation into account. because it was inconceivable that the parents wouldn't know enough Judaism to teach their kids who don't know enough to ask. So we have an almost unprecedented situation. This is what we found in the former Soviet Union when we got there after 70 years of communism too. The younger generation couldn't learn Judaism from their parents because their parents didn't know anything. It was sucked out of them through the communist years. Okay? And we have some of that in our community as well. If your kids don't know what to ask, and you don't know how to teach them, you need to start to study too.
Thank you. Shmully, I'll let you answer.
Well, do you want to ask another question? Or-
Why don't I ask the last question?
Okay.
And you can respond. So, just as a last question, before I open it up to any of your questions, I want to address the opportunity for unity amongst Jewish people. And as Rabbi Hirsch alluded to, I'd love to hear what Shmully thinks the biggest challenge facing American Jews are in the years to come and how we can unite to overcome them.
Excuse me. Look, they're going to the Hamptons, and they're doing coke. I mean, we see it, right? They're having coke parties. Sorry? Yeah, some people are davening too. Thank you. Yeah. Let's talk about the coke parties. So the davening is for, let the rabbis talk about that. Let's talk about the coke parties. They're having orgies. Okay? They're, everybody's trying to, get into the backyard with these ridiculous, half-naked, quote-unquote successful billionaires and millionaires and art collectors and art dealers with fancy cars and fancy houses. Right. Everybody's kids are in therapy. Everybody. 50%, 60%, 70% of our children are in therapy. Therapy. They're going to see psychiatrists at 7 years old. They got drugs like 90-year-olds. The Bubba has like 10 sets of pills. Now the 7-year-old goes to school. They get their bags with their pills. Right? Like a lot of them, right? There's yoga studios, thank God, in every pizza shop today in Manhattan has a yoga studio on top. Right? You got your psychiatrist, your therapist, rock and roll, TikTok. This is the world we collectively are all living in, okay? Stressed, working 80, 90 hours, 100 hours a week, so that when you're 60, you can go on vacation. Right? 60, 65, get your condo in Florida, and then you're going to be able to relax. %80 of Yale students, 70, 80% of Yale students are stressed. They're stressed. I've got teenage kids, so, I was a teenager, Toby was a teenager, we were all teenagers. We know what stress is. It's a different type of stress today. Drive through Yale's campus. It's the same at Harvard, it's the same at Columbia, it's the same at NYU. It's a wonderful place, great. We live there, we love campus, we love the people. We're seeing faces here tonight, Rachel and Caroline and everybody in between. It's wonderful. Look at the faces of people at 8 o'clock in the morning walking to class. They look like they're coming back from from Vietnam. you ask yourself, it's not like they had bad sex, because there's very little of that going on. Yeah. They woke up and it was the wrong guy, it was a party. Forget any of that. We barely have fraternities or sororities. So when we talk about today, Rabbi, when we talk today about almost like making Judaism relevant again, right? That's what you're talking about. Why Judaism? If there ever was a time that you look at modernity and you look at the progress and you look at the great scientific advances, which thank God we all celebrate. We love our phones and we love technology, and we do, and we love the New Yorker. We love it. Right? And we love higher education, and we love chemistry because it's saving lives every day. And at the same time, the mental state of the universe has gone cuckoo. And you ask yourself, what happened? Is there a better time to ask ourselves, maybe there is an answer to it? And look at people who actually live traditional lives, or lives that are rooted in history, lives that actually have meaning and purpose because they come into the world feeling like the link in a tradition, in a meaningful story. They're part of something that's existential, purposeful, deep, philosophically deep. There was never a better time. Never a better time. So what do we have to do? We just have to roll out the scrolls, literally roll out the scrolls. And people will eat it alive. To read a Mishnah like that? The world's going to teach the Jews about human rights? What the hell are you talking about? Lauderpecht and Lipton in the 1940s and the Nuremberg trials and putting the Nazis up for Auschwitz? What are you talking about? The Tanaim, the Amoraim, the Rishonim, the Achronim, the Nevi'im, Moshe Rabbeinu. We taught this to the world. We gave this to the world. We are human civilization. We, the Jews. The Bible, the Old Testament. We sit at Yale with the deans of the divinity school and the theologians and the great scholars of the New Testament. They know not to cross lines when you sit one-on-one and look them in the eye and face to face. We're not going to apologize to the world. We're not going to bow to the world. We're not afraid of the world. The hell with the UN. Biden comes and let me finish. Biden comes and Biden goes. I don't know, Kamala Harris, Donald Trump. It's all the same, frankly. It's all the same. We have to go back to, Carrie says they're not exactly the same. Not exactly the same. We have an obligation to go back to the things that have survived the ages, the truths that have survived the ages that we were blessed with, that God gave us as a people and as a civilization, and we have to share them with the world. And I want to finish on this note. You're the rabbi of the Stephen Weiss Synagogue, correct? How many of you know anything about Stephen Weiss? Raise your hand. Besides the people that work at the synagogue, you know about Stephen Weiss. Stephen Weiss went to Oregon. That was his first post as a rabbi. He came back, I believe, in 1905, 1906, 1907, around then. And he went in to become the rabbi of Temple Emmanuel, the Reformed Temple in New York. The Cathedral Synagogue, I think they called it. Is that right? And he sat down with the board of directors, and the board of directors told him, the board of trustees, how many of you know this story? Raise your hand. Well, we're down to 3. We don't even have a million anymore. Look at you. So we're down to 3 people. And you know the story. And the board of directors sat down with Stephen Weiss, and they offered him the pulpit. Great, you did your training in Oregon. Toby's from Seattle, the Pacific Northwest. That was nice. This is New York, baby. But here, the trustees run the synagogue. So if you're ready to sign, and he was talking to the titans of Wall Street. I don't have to go through the names. This was like the Linas, the Schiffs, the big shots. They got walk-in closets the size of this living room. You know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. But we're happy. But they don't have this. They don't have this. And you know what? They said to the trustees, told Stephen Weiss that in this synagogue, the trustees run the shul. So if you sign here, we'll give you the position. And Stephen Weiss writes in his autobiography, and it's it's great story. And he says that he was not only did he leave the meeting and tell everybody to go to hell, he said, not only that, I'm starting my own synagogue, and it's going to be called the Free Synagogue. And the Free Synagogue, the rabbi is going to call the shots. Now, not that the rabbi's always right, not that the rabbi's going to be dogma, not that the rabbi can't be argued with or challenged or critiqued, but the notion that the bankers on Wall Street are going to tell the people what the Bible says or what the Gemara says or what the Mishnah says is ludicrous. Talk about interest rates, and talk about the housing market, and talk about industry and shipping and insurance. I'm the rabbi, so if you want me to be a rabbi, let me be a rabbi. Now, 1964, Mario Savio, very important name to know. Yale's don't even know who Mario Savio was. 60 years to today, the Mishnah says that Ben Shishim Lazikna, 60 is age. Mario Savio, 1964, got up on the steps of Sproul Hall of Berkeley, the Berkeley sit-ins. Some of you know what I'm talking about. The Berkeley sit-ins that changed America. And Mario Savio was preceded by Michael Rossman. You can watch the clip on the internet. It's Mario Savio, and he got up on the steps of Sproul Hall. And by the way, I am going to finish, I promise. And he got up on the steps of Sproul Hall, and he critiqued President Kerr of Berkeley, who was a liberal, so-called liberal. But there was a big debate then about free speech on campus, and about the sit-ins were all about free speech, right? They were fighting Vietnam, they were fighting segregation, they were fighting black rights and civil rights. Mario Savio, Michael Rossman, there was a whole gang, a lot of them Jewish, who stood up to change America at a very, very challenging time. And he said, I almost quote it because I almost know it by heart. He said, there's a time when the when the machine becomes so odious and you become so disheartened with what you see that you have to put your bodies upon the levers, upon the gears, upon the apparatus, and you have to let the people know who run the machine that if we're not free, the machine is not going to run at all. And that's what Mario Savio, that speech changed America. I want to finish by saying that Mario Savio stuttered and stammered in high school. When you watch him speak, he's one of the greatest orators of America, in American history, changed the country. One of the great fighters on college campuses in his time that changed America. There was some civil rights in the 1960s and 1970s. He stuttered on campus, and I tell this to students all the time. Why do people stutter or stammer? One of the reasons is because they're afraid. And if you take, they're afraid. So they go into shock mode. Whatever scares them, or whatever traumatizes them, whatever they're afraid of. And if you take away that fear, all of a sudden, even somebody who's born with a deficiency of some sort, which can be healed or fixed, all of a sudden, when they calm down, they talk. I've seen students at Yale who came to Yale stuttered and stammering, and now they just go off. They can go for an hour and they can talk. The Jews, I think, we've been a little bit afraid, so we kind of like, how are you doing about the anti-Semites? Oh, how you doing on campus? Oh my God, how you sleeping? You're afraid? What are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? I want to go back to the first question you asked tonight. What are we doing here? You're the greatest revolutionary of your time. You're the greatest revolutionary of your time. You give me inspiration. Because when you get up and for me, it's easy. I got a beard, I got a yarmulke, I'm Shmully Hecht, I'm Lubavitch, I'm married to Toby. They know what they're going to get when they come here. They know it's going to be longer than it was planned. They know 36 people means 72 people. They know they know. So we can get away with a lot. We can get away, I don't know if you'll have us back. By the way, before I finish, I want to mention that today is the birthday of Matt's mom of blessed memory 25 years ago. What was her name?
Kathy.
Kathy. I want to finish at Kathy, so we should just have her memory today. Very important. Your children should live to know her greatness, and your children should live to know the greatness of grandparents and their ancestors and who they were and what they were and the commitment you made to become part of the Jewish community. We got to stop stuttering and stammering. You're the greatest revolutionary. And why are we really here tonight is because when we met the first time, and you think you had been to Shabtai on Crown Street when it was high society when you went to law school. Okay. I'm usually after a couple of whiskeys on Friday night, so I don't remember everybody who came through the building. It's great. We're reconnecting tonight. I got a clip from Mendel Muchkin, who's in the back of the room. He's a quiet guy, but he's one of the smarter people in my life, and I think I've been blessed being surrounded by a lot of smart people. He sent me a clip of you speaking in your shul. And you said things that most Reform rabbis either can't or won't say to their constituents, which is, what have we done wrong?
Right.
Where did we go wrong? It's a brave thing to do. In the spirit of the Stephen Weiss Synagogue, you got up, you said it, you didn't get fired. I'm assuming they're still going to give you your pension, your health insurance, and you get dental over there. I'm working on dental. I don't know. The eyeglasses, the $80. But you rolled, and I said, wow, this is a man I can talk to. This is one of the few rabbis I can actually feel like we could become really close friends. And let me tell you, if you and I become close friends, we're gonna rock this country. So I said to you, because you had told me the night before, you told me that you were Stephen Weiss members, and I just put two and two together, and that's the way we roll in New Haven. And I said, Carolyne, we're gonna do this, and will Ami do a talk, Rabbi Hirsch? And he said, yeah, and we did it. Why do I love you, and why do I respect you? Because for you, it's much more difficult. But you gotta notch it up like 3 notches up. You gotta literally, like there has to be like outside the Reformed temples in America, there has to be like Talmud 101, Hebrew Bible in Hebrew, Jewish song like Hasidic melody, like Shabbos is gonna be Shabbos, like we're not gonna drive, we're gonna walk to shul, just to take a walk. People don't walk anymore. They don't walk.
Uber.
Tell people you Uber. So you come to shul, you go to shul, you think it's like a Pizza Hut delivery. Walk to shul. People are going to walk on Friday night for 20 minutes. They're going to think. They're going to have time to think because they're not going to be on the phone paying the Uber guy. And they're going to come to shul and they're going to open up, and all of a sudden the rabbi's introducing some Hebrew into the davening today. And we're going to start learning Gemara, Talmud. And you know what? I studied Talmud with the dean of the Yale Law School. he blows his brain out because it's so unbelievably complex. He loves it. He loves it. And the students, and you go back to the original text, and you have it, because you know it. I know you know it. I've read your book. I've watched you. You've got the goods. You believe it all. You believe everything I believe. We pretty much are just about living the same belief system, for sure. I'm 99. I read your book. If everything you wrote in the book is true, which is why I haven't written my book yet. Because I got to say the truth, and that's now I'm not busy. I should be writing, but you wrote it. You believe it. You know it. You know the answers. Let me finish. I promise you I'll be quiet.
No, I just wanted to comment.
Yeah, I'll let you comment when I'm done. You can interrupt me. I'm interrupting you first. You know that it's about the Navi. And on that note, I'm going to pull out one more note about the Yaina, about the dove. I want to tell you about the dove. I lost the sheet. Okay, no, I have the sheet. The pigeon. Shir HaShirim, Song of Songs, Shlomo Melech. Listen to the sweet words of Shlomo Melech. You think you're going to read Kafka? Yeah, you get off a little on Kafka, you read a little Shakespeare. Nothing comes to the prophets of the Jews. The whole world knows besides the Jews. I mean, guys, let's wake up. Ani Yishein of Alibi Er, Shlomo HaMelech says, some say Chizkiyahu HaMelech wrote it, but Shlomo HaMelech definitely is the original author, and maybe recorded by Chizkiyahu. Ani, in Shir HaShirim, he says, Ani Yishein of Alibi Er, I am asleep, but my heart is awake. And he's talking about the lover. The lover. This is the most romantic book. One of the most romantic books in Torah, Shir HaShirim, is about the lover and the abandonment of the relationship. It's God and the Jewish people. It's an allegorical narrative. Ani yashen v'li bi'er, I am asleep, but my heart is awake. Kol deiti defek, and then the knock of my beloved. I gave you a book today. It's called Kol deiti defek. Kol deiti defek. I hear my lover knocking at the door. Pischi li'achesi rayasi. Open up, my sister, my lover. Yainasi, my pigeon. My dove. Tamasi, sheroishi nimlatal. I've been standing out a whole night. This is God knocking on our door. He's standing out a whole night. Drenched in dew, because the dew has fallen already. And God is waiting at the door, drenched in dew. Soaking. My locks, my hair, with the damp of night. He's knocking on the door. And Shir HaShirim, if you read the rest of the chapter, what do the Jewish people do? She gets up, she realizes that she abandoned her lover, she abandoned her God, so she goes running out into the street, chasing after God. That's what we need to do. We need to be woken up. But why the dove? Why the pigeon? By the way, it's the fourth time in Shir HaShirim, in the book of Song of Songs, that we bring, that God refers to the Jews as the dove and the pigeon. So I've been reading a lot about the history of warfare. And one of the most fascinating stories of the history of warfare, because we're living in a time of war, is the homing pigeon. We all know what the homing pigeon is. If you don't know what the homing pigeon is, you should. So who knows what a homing pigeon is? Raise your right hand. Okay, some people don't know. Good, so I'll teach you something about pigeons. The pigeon, you put him in, you bring him up, he's born or she's born. By the way, pigeons are vegetarian, just for the vegetarians here. I know. Talk about liberalism, we got to mention a little vegetarianism. Pigeons are vegetarians. Pigeons are monogamous. And pigeons' feathers fall off. They're very loose. So when the crow or the hawk comes to grab the pigeon, it's hard to grab because he grabs the feathers and the pigeon gets away. So the Jews, we've been chased. So this is one of the commentaries, one of the Mefarshim, the Malbim, or the Radak, so the stuff that these names should be something goes through your head. They're talking about why does God refer? Why do we refer to the Jew as the pigeon? Pigeon. First of all, monogamy is an important thing. Second of all, vegetarianism. Okay, basically, you could argue. Commentaries actually explain what it means not to eat of your kind, like other birds. It should be go into cannibalism, so let's just make the distinction. Not exactly carnivore or omnivores, but that's another discussion. And the third is that the feathers fall off. But the real reason that with the pigeon is because what's the pigeon? In war, before we had beepers, the Israelis, they have beepers now. Before the beepers, way before the beepers. The Jews had something else. Not just the Jews, but the world. There was a pigeon. The pigeon, you bring him, he's born, you open up the pigeon, and the pigeon flies away. And then what does the pigeon do? The pigeon comes home. They started races in Europe. It goes back to ancient times, medieval times, but in modern times, there were races, 50 miles. Then the pigeon went 100 miles. The pigeon flew across the British Channel during World War II and landed in Budapest and came back and told the British the story. Achaisi rayasi yainasi. Over and over and over again, Shlomo HaMelech says to the Jewish people, you're the dove, you're the pigeon. You can run, you can fly. You could go. You're coming home. By instinct, you're coming home. Nobody's showing you how to go home. Nobody directs the pigeon back. It's one of the greatest mysteries of the world that you can send a pigeon 1,000 miles. 1,000 miles. They did this during war. They carry messages back over enemy lines. 1,000 miles. People bet their fortunes on these pigeons. And they go back. The Jew is referred to as a lot of things. A lot of things. But the Shlomo HaMelech says that God calls us the dove, the pigeon, that I think it's pronounced kalam. Maybe there's some or what are they? Or what's the bird specialist? Ornithology? Ornithology. Thank you. Ornithology. The pigeon comes home because by instinct, it's part of their existence to go home. So my hope tonight, Caroline, and to Lina, and to Matt, and to Mom, and Dad, and to the children, and all of our wonderful, lovely people in this room, but you at the helm, because you're in New York. I'm in a small college town, we call it. We're making a little noise, but it's still a small college town. You gotta notch it up. You gotta bring all the birds back in place, back in time, from 1,000 miles, from a third generation. You spoke before about the Amy Adele Lishel by the Seder, the one who doesn't know how to ask. So Apsachla, you have to start to teach him. What do the parents do if the parents can't teach? You remind me, I told this to Ron Leibowitz at Brandeis, we're living in the post-assimilation generation. Our parents already assimilated. So the kids today who come on campus, Toby and I are seeing second generation. Shabtai is already a second generation organization. The students of the parents who started the organization are coming back to campus. Their parents are already assimilated. So they're post-assimilated, so the parents can't even teach them. So whose responsibility is it? The responsibility is on us, with you at the helm. You have to now take it 1,000 times louder, bigger, and put it out in the world, and tell the world, go back to the entire leadership of the entire reform movement. You were a tank commander, right? You know, I don't have to tell you what tank commanders do. Tank commander, take control of the desert. It's my desert. I'm going to set the formation, right? And everybody after me. You were a tank commander on me. You can change the Jewish world. You, one person, will and can change the Jewish world. You have 90% of Jews don't identify as Orthodox. Okay, good. So you have 90% of world Jewry in your hands, about 13 million people. And if you get up to that, if you get up tomorrow and you tell the world, the reform movement, that we're going through a full overhaul here, full-blown overhaul. We're going back to Aleph, Beis, Gimel, Dalet. Then the revolution will start. And then people will come in next time. We'll have a Talmud shell, hand out the papers, and you'll be reading it to us. What the Gemara says about human rights and about civil rights. And we don't have to hear the world preaching and lecturing us, and we come in paralyzed because we don't have the basic ingredients. We, all of us collectively, we don't have basic ingredients. So we need to hustle up and open up the texts and learn the languages and learn to enjoy it. And it's going to solve all our other problems. It's going to solve all our other problems. We're looking for all the world's wonderful things. Thank God there's therapy, and thank God there's meds, and thank God there's yoga, and thank God there's gyms, and all these wonderful things. But let me tell you, existentially, as a people, and individually, the wholesomeness of Yiddishkeit, the wholesomeness of Judaism, embracing, of reading Shir Shirim, Yenasi Rasi, poetry. I told Stephen Greenblatt, who's the greatest scholar of Shakespeare alive at Harvard. Who knows who Stephen Greenblatt is? We had an event in Cambridge, and I said to Stephen Greenblatt, you mastered Shakespeare? Did you learn Ein Yaakov? Have you opened the Gemara to read the stories of the Talmud? To make a long story short, he learns Ein Yaakov every day today. The great Stephen Greenblatt. I'm sure some of you have read his books. If you haven't, you're ignorant. You should read Stephen Greenblatt's books on Shakespeare. And he's reading Ein Yaakov today. He's reading the Gemara. And he sends me emails with the commentary. Where's volume 2? I finished volume 1. Well, Stephen Greenblatt, after you master all of Shakespeare, and you realize you haven't really found the answers, you go back to something a little bit, the classics. Let's go back to the classics. I'll finish on that note. I'll finish with one story. There was a great art dealer. By the way, if anybody wants to leave, you can leave. One more story. One more story. There was a great art gallery in New York, and he was a great art dealer in New York. He actually owned the building that was owned by the Iranian embassy that was abandoned, I guess, after the shock, after the Khomeini came to power. What was his name, Toby? The art dealer. And he told me, I came to see him. I used to go visit him. He had gone to Yale.
I know.
Toby, you're going to remember.
I know. Chicago.
Yeah. Richard Fagan.
Right.
The Richard Fagan Gallery.
Right.
He sold paintings for $60 million. I used to go visit him. He was a Yale alum. He wrote books on art. And I remember coming to him during one of the financial crises. We were talking, 08 or 09, I think it was. And he said, Shmully, look, it's full. The gallery's full. Nobody's buying the old masters anymore. Nobody's buying the old masters anymore. And I said, Richard, I'm not in the art business. I don't know the difference between this painting and that painting. I don't know anything about the economy. Maybe I'll know a little bit about the economy. I can tell you one thing. The old masters never die. The old masters never die. The old masters will come back, Richard. The old masters will come back. So we're going to start right here. And I took out a mezuzah, a piece of parchment from my pocket. It has the word Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. The Jews put on our, so you have a mezuzah on your door. And I took out a mezuzah and I said, Richard, we're going to put the old master on the door of the Richard Fagan Gallery in 69th Street. Because the old masters never die. Business, they'll come back. They'll buy modern art. They'll buy Jackson Pollock. They'll blow $80 million. Maybe it's a fad, 50 years, 100 years. They're always going to go back to the old masters. They'll go back to Simon and Garfunkel. They'll go back to the Beatles. They'll go back to the old masters, and they're going to go back to the Bible. You have it. It's in your hands. I'll assist. I'll do whatever I can do, and we have a big community of people. Full revival, full reversal. You got to go in. You got to turn the tables upside down, like Stephen Weiss did. He told Tetelbaum, "You'll go to hell." If you board of trustees think you're going to run the shul, have a nice day. He started the first free synagogue, then the second, and the east side. I think there were 6 by the time he got going. He passed away. You're running the shul. Take the Jewish people by the nut, and let's go.
Right.